Does it... I was about to say, does the aircon work? But this thing doesn't have aircon. Yeah, there's no aircon in here. This is a modern day car. It's not even that old. What? Where's the air conditioning, Peugeot? Did you forget to put it in? I don't know what I did in a previous life to deserve this. Peugeot partner. Well, the steering's light. There's a plus for you. This is horrendous. Okay, here's my first impressions. This thing drives like it looks, like an old washing machine. This auto box, as soon as you get up to revs and it wants to change gear, it removes all throttle from you whatsoever, removes all power. So it's obviously an auto box changing, well, it's obviously an automatic system changing a manual box. And it's horrendous. Whenever it changes gear, you're like that. It's not nice. Okay, brakes are spongy as all hell. That's not good either. It doesn't matter if you call this the Peugeot partner or the Citroen Berlingo. The result is the same. French, cheap, nasty. Now, I won't deny for a second that it's practical, but is it worth losing your self-respect over? I guess the choice is yours. Let's take a closer look and find out if it's something you'd live with. Well, I guess we'll start with some engine sizes. The 1.6 HDI is probably still the most popular, and you get it in embarrassingly 75, 90 and 110 horsepower variants. Yes, I doubt you'll be impressing anyone with those figures. Eco warriors will be delighted to find that there's now a full electric version that I've never seen before. It's got an absolutely incredible 66 horsepower.
Wow, that's really impressive.
You know what else is impressive? This thing's got the automatic gearbox. And it's so impressive what a horrible job they did of creating an auto box. Let me just explain this to you. Volkswagen have the wonderful DSG system, where it's actually a manual, but it has an automatic control system. Well, Peugeot tried to do the same thing, and failed miserably. Changing up can give you whiplash, and a kickdown can give you G-force trauma. And the trouble isn't over yet, because it takes half a second to change each gear, at which time you lose all power. Never mind that, owners really care about luggage capacity and seating arrangements. And yeah, there's plenty of space in here, but not much else. What do we get back here? Well, a couple of speakers up at the top, a full-length parcel shelf that folds in two pieces. We get a large load of nothing, that's what. You can't even get access to the spare wheel from here, you have to go underneath to get to it. Oh, wait a minute. There's a pocket over here and it's a reasonable size. That's it. This is where the Peugeot partner shines. I can just step in to the front and also just step in to the back. That's kind of the biggest selling point of these. They're very easy to get in and out of. So let's start with these door cards, as we often do. Tiny little pocket in there. I guess that's kind of useful. I can't think what I would put in it right now, but I'm sure people use those quite regularly for all sorts of things. This one over here, nice and deep. I like the little cup holder in there, even though it's too small and you can't really use it as a cup holder, but hey, you know. The door itself has a few different color schemes going on. The grey cloth, which matches the grey cloth interior. And this horrendous, nasty blue color, which I can't stand. It's not just here, it's all the way up and over the dashboard, and it's matched to the tricolor on the seats themselves. Yeah, I'm not a fan. But you know, that's what they went with, so that's what they did. Now you'll also notice that along here there are no switches on the door whatsoever. So why is that? Well, the electric window switches, well, controls are right here, so they don't need to be on the door. And the electric window switches, of all things, are on the center dash. Why? Don't really understand that. The dashboard itself it hasn't changed since the pre-facelift. The dashboard essentially has remained the same. I guess they liked it so much they decided to stick with the same design. I guess it's okay. Now it's got that very French thing of having a storage area above the steering wheel, which is quite deep, and you can store quite a bit of stuff in there. So yeah, I can approve of that. The clocks themselves are old schoolish, nice and easy to read, so you can't really argue with that either. This one has the cruise control, the paddle shift, and that's where they decided to put the wipers and indicators. Again, that's not too bad, I'll give them that. The steering wheel itself, however, look at this, there is no leather around that. That is that horrible, nasty, cheap plastic stuff that disintegrates really quickly. Peugeot, I'm disappointed. The central information up the top of the dash is clear and legible. I don't approve of the way it's tied into the stereo, so you kind of lose all that when you put an aftermarket stereo in. And trust me, you'll want to. This is the same as the original. Horrible, nasty CD unit. It's yuck. There's no Bluetooth, there's no DAB, nothing. Your basic CD unit. This thing went out of fashion over 10 years ago. Why is it still here? Lucky for us, Peugeot saw fit to make it a double DIN slot, so you get a little storage cubbyhole underneath here, and when you will eventually rip the stereo out, which most people will, I would have thought, then you get a double DIN unit when you take the storage area out too. Underneath that, your typical climate control unit, except for the fact that the aircon is missing. Why? Why is it missing? That's irritating. This is a 64-edge car, why has it not got aircon? There's a little storage area right here, which is a very odd shape, but you'll be surprised what you can put in it. Once you have access to one of these, then you kind of know what you're going to do with it. But anyway, usually there's two of those. This cubbyhole, however, has been filled. What with? This is the gear selection system. It's a weird place to put it, and it's kind of confusing. And as I explained earlier, I've got my gripes with it being not a true automatic. It's just driving a manual clutch, but never mind. So you not only lose your storage system, but you also get a horrible donkey kick gearbox to match. Moving down the way, like I say, I've got the electric window switches here. You've got a 12-volt socket in a really stupid place. Firstly, it faces upwards, so all the crap's going to get in it. Secondly, there's nowhere to tidy the wires away to. There's nowhere to hide them. So when you plug in a power outlet to this, where are you going to put the cable? You can't feed it in behind the dash without taking the dash apart. And you can't just leave it trailing around everywhere because it's messy. What do you do with it? Well, you kind of just have to put up with the mess, really. Anyway, hazard light switch is fine. It's nice and obvious what it is. So underneath that, you get your little cubby holes there, which I don't know how useful those would be. And I would imagine you'd be able to put a 12-volt socket in here too. I don't know what's under there. Maybe there's a giant screw under there, so that would mean you can't, but I don't know for sure. Now, normally in these, there's no central unit here. And usually I would complain at that, because having no central unit is kind of annoying. But it does have the two cup holders, even if they are useless. But this unit is an aftermarket, sorry, no, not aftermarket. It is a optional extra. And I think this should be fitted as standard. But basically what you get is you get your little coin holder with a cup holder built in. So you can choose, you can have one or the other. And you get this large storage area that's nice and deep, very practical. Why this isn't standard, I will never know. So, Glovebox. It's pretty much the same as most of the Renault Kangoos and other stuff. It's the same design layout. You get a set of phono leads if you want to plug an external device into this horrific stereo. Luckily this one has it, not all of them do. Keep that in mind. The different segregated areas in the Glovebox work out fine if you have something that's good size. However, I noticed this problem earlier. This is the manual pack. It's supposed to fit right here, like that. But guess what happens? It won't close with it in there. And there's nowhere else you can put it in there. So basically what happens is, I've just left it there because obviously this car's for sale. But that's seriously bad design. You can't even fit the manual in the glove box. There's a problem. Let's start looking up the way. Well, we've got that usual interior light we would find in a lot of French vehicles. It's acceptable, but it's not really good. However, above that, you have this wonderful overhead storage space. Now, I'll give them that. That is a good thing, and I've got that in my new Mercedes Citroen, which I'll hopefully be seeing a video on soon. And I like having that overhead storage. That's the beauty of having a high roof. So let's start looking at the back row. Well, you get plenty of legroom. That's another positive for this vehicle. This is interesting. You'll find this on a lot of French MPVs and box cars. It's a storage area in the footwell, which is cheap and nasty. See, the other problem I find here is, even though this is really practical, if you have decent floor mats down here to protect the floor from getting filthy, then obviously that makes this harder to access. To make matters worse, most people stand here when they get in. And when they do that, I can't take the weight and these break. There's one on the other side as well. So if you're buying a second-hand one of these, always check the little storage area to find out if somebody forgot and left something in there, or that they're broken. One of the other positives about these vehicles is you can essentially use them as a van. If you're willing to put these seats down and fold them in, as you can see, they split near enough a 60-40. Not quite, but they do. So then you do that, and then you can grab on the back and lift this entire seat arrangement up the way. And you can see how much space you would have left. You can pretty much make a van out of this with minimal effort. So I guess in summary, provided you can put up with the flaws this thing has, it's not actually that bad. You could do worse. You could have a Fiat Multipla. And that's about all I'm going to say on that today. Congratulations if you made it this far. Well, hopefully you enjoyed the content for today, even though it was on the Peugeot partner Berlingo. Anyway, like and subscribe if you enjoyed what you saw. Check out some of the other stuff we've made if this is the first thing you've seen. And of course, I'm releasing content on a weekly basis, so always check out what I've got in. I might have something more exciting next time. Well, with any luck I will. So, until then, look after yourselves.